Hey guys, I apologize for being late starting. We are, as you can tell, out of pocket. We're in. I had some doctor's appointments and things we had to go to. So we're Bible studying in the car, and that's okay. That's all right. Actually, Gail's going in to get lunch. We're between appointments, and that is okay. Let's see. Do we have any comments so far? No. Good. Okay. Well, anyway, welcome to our Wednesday Ephphatha Bible study for Wednesday, January 6th. We Today's Epiphany Sunday. Today's Epiphany, the day of Epiphany, the day that the wise men came to visit Jesus. So, a very special day. It marks the end of the Christmas season. We often think of Christmas as just a single day, but this marks the end of the season, and we now enter the season after Epiphany. Not an original name, but it works. And then that will lead us up into Ash Wednesday, which of course is the beginning of Lent. So we're kind of again in the between times, and that's okay. It's okay for us as Christians to have between times and times of growth and study and waiting in a sense, because that's kind of where we are in life, isn't it? We celebrate Christ's coming among us as in Christmas, but we know that until Christ comes again, we're kind of waiting and living out our faith. Today, we're in Exodus chapter 20, and we're continuing to look at the Ten Commandments. And had some good questions last time. Hey, Sue. Let's say good morning to Sue. I hope you guys are doing well. And as you can see, if you have comments or questions, do go ahead and type those in, and I will see those and do my best to respond to them. We're going to be spending some time with the Ten Commandments and in Exodus, of course, but I want us to kind of think beyond just the kind of literalistic, simplistic way that we've been thinking about them before, and think about the Ten Commandments in light of the cultural context, in light of the community of faith that they were given to and created in. They were given to the people of God as a training tool, as a training in righteousness, as a training in how to be obedient, and it is a tool for creating an identity as separate from the rest of the nations of the world. So you may see the car move or rock or something. Like I said, we're between doctor appointments, so that's where we are. So anyway, we talked about we ended it last week talking about the Sabbath and kind of starting to talk about the Sabbath. I want to kind of touch on that again, and we'll move on from that. The Sabbath is often misunderstood. It is set apart and made holy. We are told to rest on the seventh day because God rested, and to keep the Sabbath holy. It's a way of forcing us to stop what we're doing and focus on worship, focus on God, focus on other things other than our daily tasks. And it's a way of teaching us and reminding us that that we are not so important that the world will come to a screeching halt if we're not there to do our thing. So it's a lesson in humility, and it's a lesson in stopping what we're doing, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing for all of us, especially I think today that we are taught that we've got to be going, and if we're not producing something, if we're not working or doing something productive, our time is wasted. And that's not really the case. There is time for rest. There is time for reflection. There's definitely time for worship. Bob is saying hello from Gray, hoping you and yours are well. Thank you. We are. Got just some doctor appointments, but just the normal kind of checkup kind of things. So yes, we are well. I hope you and yours are doing well as well. So Sabbath is Sabbath. Well, God says elsewhere, the Sabbath was created for man, not man for the Sabbath. So worship is our primary purpose in the Sabbath, but it's also a time of rest and time of a change of pace, so that we can be reminded that other things are important too. Okay, verse 12. We're in Exodus 20, starting in verse 12, and it says, "Honor your father and mother, so that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God has given you." Seems pretty simple, doesn't it? Well, maybe not so fast. Like I said at the outset, that we're looking at the context of the community this is given to, and what does it mean? How does this commandment function in community? It's more than being nice to mom and dad. It means more than sending a card on Mother's Day and Father's Day. This is a reminder that we are a people who are, in a sense, born into a family. I talked about this in church on Sunday as well, that we are part of a community, we're part of a family, that we are birthed into a group of people that have an ongoing history that comes before us and hopefully will exist after us. We don't get to define ourselves in every little sense, and that kind of bothers some folks, that we have a past. We come from a people and a place, and that, in a very real sense, helps define us. Now, our past can be a source of strength and a source of comfort, but it also, in some cases, sadly, it's a source of pain and something to be overcome and learned from and left behind. So I feel for the people whose families and whose histories are a source of pain. Gail is in the house, so hello, Gail. Glad you're with us today. And there we go. So that's important, that we are part of a community, part of a family, part of our, I want to say, our mythos of modernity is that we do get to create ourselves. We build ourselves up from the ground up. We pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. But the reality is that we are shaped by our families of origin. Families are the groups of people that help nurture us and raise us. The things that happen to us as children and young people, those all shape us in ways that are good and bad, and in most cases, a mixture of both. So we don't get to ignore that. We shouldn't try to pretend that we have created ourselves from the ground up, that we're not completely self-made men and women, that we are part of a community, that our lives are impacted by others. And the flip side of that is our lives impact others as well. So we are connected to one another. Connectionalism is a good Methodist term, that we are connected one to another. I often, and again, if you heard me on Sunday, I'm kind of repeating that. I talked about the family of God, the image of the church as family, and that's good and bad, sometimes both at the same time. But that we are connected to one another. We need one another. And so honor your father and mother is the call to remember that connection, to honor it and to learn from it. And it doesn't say we have to agree or go along with everything that our family did or said or believed, but we have to understand it, and we have to honor those who have nurtured us, and then learn how we are to live out our faith ourselves. So honor your father and mother is more about just being nice to mom and dad. It's about the whole context of being in a community. So the next four commandments are pretty straightforward, and we tend to rattle them off. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. Okay, pretty easy. And that ease with which we can rattle them off or think about them, I think, is part of the danger of us as Christians in relying on the Ten Commandments maybe excessively. because it becomes way too easy, brothers and sisters, to think, well, I haven't committed murder today and I haven't committed adultery today, so hey, that's 2 out of the 10. I'm doing good. I'm doing really good. It becomes a measuring stick that we can use to make ourselves feel better, and more dangerously and more importantly, that we can use against other folks to look down on them. Like, oh, well, I haven't done these bad things. I'm obviously doing better than that guy over there who is not doing, he's not doing what he's supposed to do. We humans have a nasty tendency to watch what other folks are doing and use it as an excuse or a rationalization to make ourselves feel better about our failure to do what we know that we need to do. So, yeah, we should not murder. And Christians who get all worked up about murdering, in certain instances, seem to be very selective about what murder they oppose and what murder they don't seem to mind. I mean, well, anyway, we'll just leave it at that. It's real easy to pick and choose, and if we're going to be part of the community, which is what we're talking about, we don't get to pick and choose which parts of the faith that we get to obey and not. You should not commit adultery. You need to be faithful to your vows, whether they be marriage vows or promises to do things. We need to be faithful, and that ties back into what we said was the first commandment, to honor the Lord your God and have no other gods. Don't worship anything else besides God. Now, I just said the first commandment, and that one, honor the Lord your God, is first in all the different lists, but there are 3 or 4 different lists in different places. Another place in Exodus, and another place in Leviticus, and a few other places. The 10 commandments aren't always listed the same way. We talk about the 10 commandments as if they are one thing and the same thing throughout the scripture, and they're not. It's the set of rules, laws, we often refer to as the law of Moses, and that encompasses also the interpretation of those and the application of those. But we need to remember that it's written down in different places, and that's important because it speaks to the fact that this is not one set of laws chiseled in stone, because well, they were chiseled in stone the first time, but it's a set of rules and ideals and beliefs that are the foundation of the way we practice the faith, the way the ancient Israelites practiced their faith. And in a modern sense, we, as the people of the new covenant, followers of Christ, we practice our faith under the law of Christ, which is love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. You can definitely see the echoes to the 10 commandments there, and love your neighbor as yourself. And again, that is summing up all of the 10 commandments and all of the Old Testament, and maybe carrying it a little further forward, because if you love your neighbor as yourself, you're not going to murder, commit adultery, steal, or bear false witness. Those aren't loving acts. So we can see how the law of Christ encapsulates all of those and then carries it to the next level. Because basically, let's see, there are three of these that are positive. Remember the Sabbath, honor your father and mother, and love the Lord your God. And the rest of them are things you don't do. And so a lot of folks thought, well, if it's not specifically forbidden in the 10 Commandments or whatnot, then it must be perfectly legal. And that is not the case. There are lots of things that aren't covered in those 10 statements. But the law of Christ, which is love your neighbor as yourself, that covers a lot more ground. So the law of Christ is a much more all-encompassing thing than the rather narrow 10 Commandments. Now, when I say narrow, there were scroll upon scroll of rabbinic thought about how to do these things, and there were, for the Sabbath keeping, there were literally hundreds different regulations about what constitutes work. You can't carry more than a woman couldn't carry a sewing pin in her pocket, or that would count as work. You couldn't go so many steps from your home, or that would count as work. And people, being people, there is good, strong evidence that the ancient Israelites and sometimes more modern day Jewish folks would have ways of like connecting their houses, literally connecting their houses with string or rope or cable or something, so that all of a sudden their whole little village area became one household. And so the folks could go around to the different houses and stuff and still be inside their house and not be doing work. So as long as there have been rules and laws and commandments, people have been finding a way to get around them. And that's one of the reasons I think the law of Christ, instead of the Ten Commandments, should be the thing that we Christians ought to be trying to put everywhere. That love your neighbor as yourself, that covers basically everything. So the following of Christ is covers all aspects of our life. All right. So don't commit adultery, don't steal, don't lie, don't bear false witness against your neighbor. So don't go into court and swear badly or lie in court about the guy that lives next door to you. But see, you can be very specific and very, very literal with these, but that's not the intention. The intention as originally and in community is to guide our life together. So not bearing false witness has been understood to mean don't lie, and not just about the person that lives next door, but don't lie about people in general. Shall not, verse 17, you shall not covet your neighbor's house, shall not covet your neighbor's wife or husband, or male or female slave, or ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. That's, yeah, again, that's pretty self-explanatory, but in living out, it's a little bit different, a little bit harder. We can admire things that our neighbor, and again, this is more than just the person that lives next door. You can admire something someone else has, but when you start saying, I want that, or worse yet, I wish you didn't have that and I had it myself, admiration quickly turns into covetousness and envy. And as we know, envy and pride are some of the deadlier of the sins, that they are spiritually, they will kill us. So the practice of living out the faith is something that we struggle with daily. I think we're going to I think we're going to cut it a little bit short today and continue wrestling with the Ten Commandments, because there's still more to talk about and more to think about. But I do want us to keep in mind that the idea that if we just do these 10 things, God will love us. If we don't do these 10 things, if we obey the 10 Commandments, that God will love us is way too shallow and way too simplistic a way to think about being in relationship with God. These 10 Commandments, even when they were written as guides for life and for behavior, not as a checklist that we could do or not do and just feel good about ourselves. So all this is always about living in community with God and with each other. So we'll continue talking about that next week. But as for me and for us, we're off to our next gathering, next appointment. So I hope you guys have a blessed week. This coming Sunday in church, we'll be talking about Epiphany. I know today is Epiphany Day, but next Sunday is Epiphany Sunday. So we'll be talking about the wise men and all that good stuff, what that meant. And then we'll be entering our season after Epiphany. So I hope you guys have a blessed week, and we will see you in church or online on Sunday. And as always, I don't see any more questions or anything, but as always, if you have questions or something, you can leave a comment. You can shoot me an email or something, and we'll deal with that. But until then, God bless you and have a good one. We'll see you next time.